Alright, hey everyone, this is Ash. Welcome back to The King's Speech. So just a couple of quick channel update stuff before we jump into the reaction reviews for Shonen Jump this week. So unless plans change, and this will be a surprise thing, don't expect any Alita or Vinland Saga read-throughs this week just because life stuff is busy this week, so I probably won't be free to kind of dive back into that until next Sunday. So yeah, don't expect any videos for that unless I just, like if I feel like taking a break from some other stuff and taking care of that today, then I might do that just as a break, a side thing. Today is record some Elite and Vinland Saga stuff, but if not, expect it to be next week. If there's anything uploaded today or tomorrow, that will be basically a nice surprise for the channel. But apart from that, I hope you have been enjoying those read throughs so far. If you have any comments, requests, anything like that for those, please do either send me a message on here or on my Twitter at King Cocoa Butter, and I'll definitely take those into account. But I guess without further ado, let's jump into this week's Shonen Jump reactions with One Piece chapter 953, Once a Fox. So we have limited cover series number 24, Gang Bej's Oh My Family, Volume 4, Enemy Ship Seized, Off to Thriller Bark. This looks like Bej has ransacked another pirate ship. He can't really make out his insignia, and he's on his way to Thriller Bark. Of course, we have translation by Stephen Paul, lettering by Vanessa Satone. So you see a flashback, and you see Kawamatsu tearing up as he's reading a message that says, "To Kawamatsu, thank you for everything. I will be fine, Hiyori." Kawamatsu's like, "What?" He's like, "Lady Hiyori, princess, Lady Hiyori." So you see him just going, he's running off through the wasteland looking for her. So he goes into a public path and does some peeping as he's trying to look for her. Walking through the town with a disguise on his face, so he's walking through some rain. So he's like, "Princess, Lady Hiyori, Lady Hiyori." Then we see present day Ringo, and you see Gyakimaru running off into what looks like an abandoned village. You see snow covering a bunch of buildings and what looks like a bridge. And Zoro's taking off, chasing him, going, "Even with his wounds, this guy just doesn't give up." He's like, "Where the heck am I?" And he goes, "Well, as long as I keep following the bloodstains." And Zoro's like, "Huh?" As he hears a kashunk. And back at the bandits' bridge, you have Kawamatsu going, "We ought to move from here. I cannot believe they are still hunting more remnants. And who was that enormous warrior monk?" And he's like, "Do watch your step in the deep snow." And Hiyori does the whole pouty face, and she's like, "Excuse me, I'm not a child anymore, Kawamatsu." And he's like, "Ka pa 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 pa. Oh, is that so? But a grown-up woman does not puff out her cheeks like a blowfish." And she's like, "Oh, you." And Kawamatsu's like, Oh, no, it's Hiyori's going to continue. "So there are so many things to talk to you about, but why are you here now?" And Kawamatsu goes, "After you vanished on me, I found a foolish reason to come to this place." So you see flashback to Kawamatsu coming to the bridge going, "If I need to slip my stomach for allowing harm to come to the princess, I choose this location to do it." And he goes, "Like its neighboring territory of Hakumai, the northern land of Ringo was overseen by the Shimotsuki clan, famous for their hardiness. Oh, come on. Oh, man, right? The daimyo's name was Shimotsuki Ushimaru, a master of the sword who always traveled with a fox companion. But Kaido saw to it that Ringo did not escape destruction either." And Hiyori's thinking, "Fox?" And so Kawamatsu goes, "Are you familiar with the custom of Ringo known as eternal graves? It is where the land is so cold that bodies in coffins will remain preserved for centuries." He's like, "That's right, and their locations are marked by their katana stuck into the ground. Some of those blades naturally are of legendary make, so grave robbers are a constant problem. This is one of the facts of life in Ringo." Flashback again to something going, yip, yip. He's like, it's gonna kill us. So you see some of Kaido's gifters running away. And he's like, grr, yip, yip. And you see a weird fox thing that's growling and barking. And Kawamatsu goes, can a man not be allowed to die in peace and quiet? He's like, aren't you Onimaru? He's like, grr. He's like, yip, yip. He's like, this Koma fox went by the name of Onimaru. It was companion to the deceased daimyo of Ringo, Shimotsuki Ushimaru. And then Kawamatsu goes, I've met you once before. And the fox, you see, has wounds all over. It's got, head wound. It's got arrows sticking out of it. And then it falls with a swoosh as it collapses from all the wounds it got. Kawamatsu's like, Onimaru. He's like, And so he looks behind him and he sees something like very reminiscent of what's happening in Wano. You see a bridge, and on top of it there's a house on there, and you see a pathway leading up to it, and you see all these swords stuck in the graves around the area. And he goes, do you mean to tell me you've been guarding this all on your own? For 5 years after Ringo's downfall, Onimaru fought the grave robbers all alone. When the people of Ringo are born, they're gifted a katana. They live with their katana and use it as a grave marker when they die. So you see Kawamatsu going, here's something to eat. According to folklore, foxes love fried tofu. And you see that Onimaru has been all bandaged up, and he goes, your wounds won't heal unless you eat, and you can't protect your master's grave if you're dead. So the fox just kind of warily sniffs at the fried tofu and just starts munching down on it. So then you see scenery shifts to outside, and you hear shuck, shuck, shuck. Shuck, and the fox is wondering what that sound is, and it goes outside to look, and you see Kawamatsu with a pickaxe just digging up all the graves. The fox is like, yip, yip. He's like, don't raise such a fuss. He's like, forgive me. It's like, yip, yip. He's like, forgive me, I know. It's like, yip, grr. And then it bites onto Kawamatsu's hand with a chomp, and he's like, He's like, get off. How am I supposed to explain this to a fox? I have no desire to disturb the sleep of the dead either. But 13 years hence, there will be another great war. The day will come when the samurai of the nation stand tall and proud again. And when that happens, we will need a great number of swords. So you see Kawamatsu and the fox, Onimaru, just fighting again. And he goes, in battle, when your companion dies before your eyes, you take his sword and continue onward. The soul that resides in a... The soul that resides in a katana makes a samurai strong and enables him to destroy his enemies. This is still a battlefield. And the fox is still not having, just grr grr as he's chewing on his hand. He goes, the battle between the Animal Kingdom pirates and the land of Wano is not yet finished. It is too early to let these swords sleep. We cannot allow them to be stolen by thieves before the coming day. I will retrieve and hide them all before that can happen. This is the one mission that I can be allowed to have. I may have failed to protect Lady Hiyori, but at least I can do this. And Onimaru is kind of starting to come around a little bit, and Kawamatsu continues, if I don't do something, my conscience will destroy me utterly. If you're hungry, then tear my arm off and take it away already. I will not stop robbing these graves. And Kawamatsu just breaks down crying. And Onimaru finally lets go and just licks his wounds. And then goes and sits on an outcropping of rock, just watching him slave away as he gathers all the swords. And Kawamatsu is kind of surprised that he's just watching him. So he sees Onimaru also starting to dig up the swords. And he goes, what change of heart is this? Do you understand what you're doing? And he goes, let's dig underground to hide the swords. And then you see a little, time passing thing where it's just like you go, another day of ransacking graves ahead. It's positively freezing today. I'm so hungry. If I could sell one or two in the capital. It's like, look, I borrowed some food. And you see, get back here. They're real grave robbers. And he's like, who is that guy? And you see some more, looks like Ronin samurai that came by. And you see Kawamatsu disguise himself, and he goes, who, me? Why, I'm Yakimaru of Bandit's Bridge. Ka pa 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 pa. And you see Onimaru just standing proudly behind him. And he goes, beyond this bridge lies Ringo's heart. You cannot have these graves. Drop those weapons. They are not yours. So Kawamatsu in the present time goes, and after some time doing that, I went to the capital for one of my trips to acquire food, and found myself unable to return for certain reasons. It's like, Yakimaru, is that a coincidence? How strange. So you see that he got caught because he was caught stealing fried tofu. And you see them going, "We caught you at last, fried tofu thief." And it's like, I was sloppy. So Hiyori goes, "So you came here to see that fox?" And Kawamatsu goes, "I'm sure that Onimaru grew disillusioned with me after I did not return. It's been 13 years. I cannot imagine I would see him here. Hopefully, if all the swords we hit together still remain, we can arm a few hundred warriors." You see they finally caught up with Zoro, and they're like, "Oh, Zorojuro." And Zoro goes, "The big guy just vanished, but he left this door wide open." He's like, "What does it mean? Should I chase him or go in?" So you see this underground building with the door off. Kawamatsu's going, "This is the passage to the underground." You see rrr, as he gets the snail on my phone. And he's like, "Is that you, Kinemon?" He's like, "Kawamatsu, I'm so glad you're alive." And then he goes, "After Udon, we have a large influx of manpower, but perhaps not enough weapons to arm them, I suspect." "Yes, that is true. Very astute of you. It's a problem. Orochi's confiscated all the weapons in the nation in the last 20 years. So Kawamatsu tells him, "Well, you may relax now. We can recruit thousands of soldiers with enough katana for every last one of them." "Is this true?" "Send some men according to the following directions." So you see in the underground they've built this little shrine. And you see there's just weapons all over, stacked up in columns or stuck into the ground. And then Kawamatsu's like, "Send some men according to the following directions." Kawamatsu's thinking, "But why are there so many now? Was it Onimaru? No, this had to be human work." So you see huff, 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 and you see Yakimaru that's gone back outside again. And then with a poof, he turns back into Onimaru. And with a happy sound, he kind of just wanders off into the snow. And you see, Hiyori telling Zorojuro, "If your sword truly is legendary Shusui, please return it to Wano." And Zoro's like, "I told you, it's mine." And Hiyori goes, "Oh boy. I will give you another in return. The katana I received from my late father. The sword is called Enma. It is a legendary katana, the only one to have ever wounded Kaido." Alright. I suppose I should go over my thoughts for the chapter, because that's the end of it. And man, Wano is still the most boring arc I have ever read week to week, and that is still saying something. So you got elements of, Toy Soldier and Kairos Rebecca with Kawamatsu Hiyori, where he's like, "Oh, I have to go and protect you, blah, blah, blah." And she runs away to go save his life. And she even has the same thing of like, "Oh, I want to kill, Orochimaru, blah, blah, blah." Except now you basically replace Sanji with Zoro, and you have the exact same arc playing out. Then you have elements of Orange Town with Shushu and his owner, except now it's Kawamatsu and them. The same thing where it's just like, "Oh, the fox looked after all the treasures for all these years until his master came back to get it." And it's not that I don't like these tropes, or that these tropes are inherently bad, but like Oda's trying to hit all those emotional beats without doing enough work to actually make you emotionally invested in any of these characters. So those beats don't land, because at this point in time, like, this is solely my opinion, so if you feel differently, you do you. I don't give a shit about Kawamatsu. I don't give a shit about Hiyori. I don't give a shit about Kinemon or any of the other people of Wano, because Oda's taken the generic struggle of, every single arc, put it into a disguised different environment, with a whole Japanese culture and design and aesthetic and everything. And he's just become supremely lazy with kind of trying to make those emotional beats hit. Like, I've not been given a reason yet why I really should give a shit about their struggle specifically. What makes it unique from everything else we've kind of seen so far and different, and why we should really care. And a lot of that emotional impact seems to be invested in the fact that we're supposed to care about these characters because they care about Oden and his vision of what Wano was and is and could be and all that. And I know, like, the argument is probably going to be something like, oh, we'll eventually get to the point where we'll get Oden's backstory and we'll find out why he was so great, why everyone loved him so much. But he seems like almost too perfect at this point. Like, because one of the people I was talking to on Twitter pointed this out, that Kaido did not have the scar on his stomach 20 years ago, and so we're wondering, like, how did he get that scar? So I think now we got confirmation that what's his face, Oden gave it to him with that sword before he died. And I don't care for this idea that Zoro is just gonna be like given us legendary sword and be like, oh hey Zoro, here you go, legendary sword for you. Oh, you can use this to defeat Orochi now. Oh, isn't that great? Like, again, there's no emotional beat to this where Zoro's just like, oh, I'm just gonna get a sword just cause. And like, I don't know, like, I want to say I want to wait to see how this is gonna play out, but I really don't give a shit. Like, the idea that, oh, he's just gonna get a strong sword and that'll be enough to defeat Kaido kind of leaves a sour taste in my mouth. Like, this just like occurred to me as I was reading this. I kind of hope that, as we saw with Ashimaru, the bandit guy, where he was saying, it's been 20 years since we last met and I'm a lot stronger now than I was back then. I'm hoping it's the same with Kaido, where if Zoro is given the sword and he tries it, whatever, I hope he's just like bit slaps Zoro out of the way and he's like, it's been 20 years since that sword has been able to wound me, and you're not a swordsman worthy of like being able to use that sword and give me a scar. So I hope that's what happens, like he gets over a line and arrogant and kind of gets smacked down. But again, like, I don't want Zoro to just be given a sword, because that's just such lazy storytelling. Like, there's no emotional beat to that kind of thing. And I think the only thing that intrigued me in this chapter was the idea that, we now know that Haki can be imbued into swords and that it stays imbued after the user's death. And so, when they're talking about how in Ringo, they say, the soul that resides in a katana makes a samurai strong, etc., etc. And the idea that, everyone in Ringo is given a sword from birth and they live with it until they die. So if the idea is, that reason they do that is because the way they're taught to use their sword, they always imbue it with Haki whenever they fight. And so, it literally becomes like the sword becomes their soul when the user dies. That is an intriguing idea to me, because this is something I've been talking about for a long time now, about the idea of swords having souls and like how that impacts the swordsman's relationship to it. And I still want Zoro to be able to have that with God, what's her name? Tashiki. Oh God, why the hell can I not remember her name? Ah, shit. See, my brain is just absolutely dead. Oh, Kuina. So I'm hoping we get a callback to that somehow with Kuina, because I've pointed this out before, that Zoro has mentioned that he's been able to sense, like the personalities of his swords, where he's just like, yeah, the Kitetsu's kind of like an unruly child, and you have to kind of discipline it into what you want it to do. And that, Shusui also is like a little bit heavy, and it takes a strong will to kind of bend that sword to your will as well. And I've pointed out that Zoro's never once mentioned ever being able to hear anything from the Wado. So I'm hoping this kind of leads to that, because the idea that, if what we're doing here applies to, say, Kuina, and if it's the same thing where her haki was slowly being imbued into the Wado Ichimonji, and it has, a portion of her soul in it, that would be an idea I'm supremely interested in kind of looking at, but we'll have to see, because the way Oda's going with this direction, it looks like he's just gonna give Zoro a sword and be like, here's your power up, which I'm hoping that's not, but honestly, who can really tell with Oda at this point? The last thing, the reason I was laughing when I heard Shimotsuki Ushimaru, a master of the sword, blah blah blah, was I instantly thought, I've always been of the idea, like, what if Green Bull is from Wano? And as we know, like, Ushi is cow. And as soon as I saw Ushimaru, I'm like, oh shit, what if Green Bull is like a descendant of either, Shimotsuki, or he's someone from Ringo, that was driven out of Wano when Kaido took over. So I don't, like, that might just be like me just way over pushing it, but I guess we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, and honestly, I might take a break from OP until part two. Yeah, part two ends and we get to part three, because this is just like, I'm not feeling any of this arc so far. Um, yeah, so I don't know. I might take a break next week on until part two ends, and then maybe we get some more exciting developments, because I am not invested in any of these characters at all. But yeah, I think that's about it. I know I've already seen some early reactions on Twitter, and I think everyone else already loved this chapter, which, if you do, it's good for you, but I just don't feel the same way. So yeah, so I'll finish recording this, upload it right away, and then try to do a double promised Neverland reaction review as well. And then depending on how I feel, mood, and everything else, I'll try to get at least one more video out, kind of talking about some different stuff today. And like I said, don't expect Alita or Vinland Saga until next week, when I'm hopefully a bit more free. And until next time, this is Ash. Talk to you all later.